your opinions on this?
White chavs have become black.
Yeah.
Well, obviously David Starkey is an eminent historian and, you know, a very highly intelligent academic. And I know there was a lot of negative press that followed the comments that he made, I think, on Newsnight. But I think in a sense that when you look at what he was saying, I think it was somewhat unfortunate the way that he said it. In all countries you're going to get people who, for whatever reason, don't buy in to the values of the society they're living in. And, you know, we have people, young and old in this country, who don't buy into the values of this society. And I think it's wrong to look at what's happening in other countries and to say that the way some people behave in those countries has sort of infiltrated into ours, and that has therefore influenced the way that some of our young people behave. It's possible, but at the end of the day, everyone has got to be responsible for their own actions. Yeah, and yes, I'm conscious of the reference that he made to the way that some members of some gangs in Jamaica and other Caribbean islands have behaved, and somehow he feels that sort of subculture had infiltrated the UK, and many of our young people have started to copying that type of behaviour. But at the end of the day, you know, the UK, the cities of the UK, you know, are not Jamaica. They're different. But I think there is some truth in what he's saying, but I just think it was unfortunate the way that he said it.
Okay, thanks, sir. Next question I have is, the London riots and the perception of black men go hand in hand. This was a headline on an online blog called The Legal Conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Do you believe this is true? And if so, why?
No, I mean, obviously there were people of all races and colours that were involved in the riots. If it appears that there were a sort of large proportion of black men involved in it, well, there were a large proportion of black men involved in it. You know, we are where we are with that. I wouldn't say that riots would be synonymous with, you know, black males, but evidently what we saw on our TV screen, not only in London but across the country, were groups of people, young and old, engaged in acts of looting, robbing, violence, etc. And amongst them were large numbers of black males. I don't think it was action that was particularly could be compartmentalized into this is the behaviour of a particular group of people or a particular ethnic group. But obviously, the evidence is clear and there for us to see. I mean, I don't know if anyone has sort of done the maths, you know, to actually do an analysis of what particular racial group was, you know, predominantly out on our streets and stuff. But yeah, if it turns out that there were a lot of black males out there engaged in these activities, and so they were, and we can't sort of deny that.
Okay. I found online that it's the same from the same online blog. The lack of black journalists means the representation of young black males is fueled with gaps of knowledge, lack of knowledge and stereotypes. Do you believe this is true? Do you believe the lack of black journalists out there has an impact on how young black males are perceived in the media?
I think there is an argument to suggest that the lack of black journalists has meant that in some section of the media, the reporting of incidents involving black and ethnic minority groups has not been particularly fair. But at the end of the day, if there are groups of people in our society from whatever ethnic background are engaged in antisocial activity, then they're engaged in antisocial activity, and that has to be reported. There's no way that you can soften that to the rest of the community. But one can see that from a black perspective, that black journalists coming from their experiences may well be able to present maybe a reasoned argument, or a more reasoned argument as to why a particular incident has occurred. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't really put too much store on that argument. I mean, people, as I said, people have got to take responsibility for what they do. And wherever you come from, whatever your background, if you are not someone who believes in the rule of law and living under that particular rule, and you believe that it is right and proper to go out and abuse people, then whatever your skin colour, creed, race, whatever, I mean, that's wrong, and it has to be reported.
Okay. Next, I have a question. How do you think the perception of black males in the media can be changed in a positive way?
How can the perception of black males? Well, the thing was that the vast majority of black males are decent people. They're not out there robbing and thieving and mugging and shooting people or stabbing people. It's unfortunate that in recent years we have had a spate of criminal activity, knife crimes, gun crimes, which has been committed by black males, that's been blown up in a big way in the media. We have a special Metropolitan Police task force that deals particularly with black on black crime. I think that sort of label is somewhat unfortunate. I mean, crime is crime, and if crime is committed, you go out and investigate it. But as a community, we can't be happy with the fact that so many of our black males are involved in this particular type of activity. In a sense, we have to look to see if there are ways and means of us, stopping this sort of thing from happening. And at the end of the day, it goes right back, in my view, to the sort of socialization process that our young people go through. It goes back to the family and what takes place in the family and the values that are shared in family. But I come back to the point. It's the minority of black males who are doing some of these things, and we can't use their behaviour to say that this is the way that black males per se behave.
So what you're trying to say is that it all starts from home. In other words, how the mentality of the minority of black males.
A lot of it comes from home. I mean, that's where we, as young children, begin to get our values, begin to get our understanding of what is right and what is wrong, to get our understanding of respect, and to have reverence for people who are older and wiser, and to listen to them. Unfortunately, in many parts of our community, there has been a breakdown in that sort of relationship, and there are many young people out there, black males, black females, who have more or less brought themselves up, and they've bought into a subculture which deviates from the norm, and they've got themselves in this position of sort of antisocial behaviour, violence at times, low self-esteem. Many of them have had very negative experiences of the education system. Many of them have not managed to acquire appropriate skills to be able to hold down worthwhile jobs, etc. There's a lot going wrong in their lives, but I think ultimately we have to look at those formative years in terms of the experiences that they've had, and how those formative years, if they're properly used, can shape you as a young person. And no matter what you have to go through, what negative things you have to go through and experience, if you've been brought up with appropriate values, then you can cope, and you're willing to take advice from your friends and relatives, members of the extended family around you, and try and build your life. It doesn't all have to be negative.
Okay. Lastly, I have a fact that I discovered online saying 61% felt that images of the riots and looters caught up in the violence and disturbances over UK in August unfairly singled out black males. Do you believe that's a fair, or do you believe, are you shocked to discover that?
Well,
or?
not particularly. I mean, black males were out there robbing and looting and setting fires, but so were white and Asians and whatever. There were all sorts of people out there doing it. If in a particular area there was a preponderance of black males, and so there was. The evidence is there for us to see, for somebody like myself, sitting at home watching the TV screen and seeing what was happening up and down the country, I mean, it shocked me to see what was taking place. I was just shocked to see so many people out on the streets breaking the law. It really, really shocked me. Yes, was I shocked seeing so many blackface in the crowd? Well, of course, because as a black person myself, I don't want to see that. But at the end of the day, I'm not taking on their pressures and their burden. If they decided to go out and to commit those crimes, then it's wrong. And if they're caught, they should face the full force of the law. And I've got no sympathy for them, because again, while they were out there doing that, there were other black males who were in their homes just getting on with their own private business, so they weren't involved in that. So I've got no sympathy at all for those who were out there who were caught up in that violence, whether they were black, white, pink, polka dot, no sympathy whatsoever. They shouldn't have done it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.